Now, Apple this year has done a couple of things they haven't done in the past, and they've totally filled out their product line with phones at almost every single price point. And that's been kind of cool. I've lauded that and talked about it. There is one price point missing, which I believe would have been filled with the iPhone SE Plus, whatever that's going to be, the bigger version. We may or may not see that next year in 2021. But I looked at the pricing and the actual phones that are on offer right now and realized that there's one phone that I just don't think you should buy. Like, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, just plain old don't buy this phone. There's an actual iPhone I'm going to tell you to straight up not buy. And I'll tell you all about it right after this.
This is, you listening to Travis.
What up, players? Welcome back. And for all you new people, welcome. My name's Travis and I do tech videos every single week and have a blast doing them. If that sounds like fun to you, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Anything I talk about will be in the description below. But for now, let's just get into the video. So this year has been pretty exciting for if you're an Apple user. Tons of great announcements. The new iPhone series. The SE made a return this year. The new iPad Pros, which were not very much of an upgrade. The new iPad Air design, which is basically the iPad Pro. And then of course, the M1 Max. And during the iPhone 12 announcements, we saw that the complete pricing range that Apple has laid out. And I'll tell you, it was actually pretty amazing. I looked at them, you had a price point for just about everything. And anyone who really needed a phone at a specific price point could probably catch one. But you know, one of the things about this channel that I think most people like is that I try to figure out a way to give you ideas about budget-minded tech. Some things are really great for a specific price and then sometimes not. Well, in this lineup, there's a phone that's actually really good, but it's just too close to a much better option. Now let's talk about the price differences in between these two phones. We're talking about the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11. There is a $100 difference. Let's talk about that price difference first, and then we'll get into why you should never buy, well, the phone I'm talking about. Now, $100 when you're trying to buy it outright is a lot of money. If you're doing it over payments, it's not that much, especially if you split it out into 1 or 2 years. If you do it at 1 year, it's a little bit less than like what, $10 a month, depending on how you pay the taxes through that. And 2 years, like $5 a month. Now, the reason that becomes important is because of one of the reasons why I think you should not buy the iPhone XR. So if money is kind of an issue and you're thinking the $100 is not worth it for the iPhone 11, I'm going to try to convince you otherwise. Because here's the thing. Just don't go to Starbucks that much. You just take like one Starbucks a month for the next 12 months and it pretty much pays for your iPhone 11. I mean, really, that's it. We're talking a couple bucks. And while they both sport the same LCD panel and both sport a 6.1-inch display and they both look pretty much the same, there are enough differences between these two that make me say you should just straight up get the iPhone 11 if you're looking between these two phones and just skip the iPhone XR altogether. Number one, the iPhone XR only has one lens. It doesn't have that ultra wide lens. Now, that may or may not seem important to you now, but if you've never had an ultra wide lens, you probably don't know how great they are, especially when you're taking a picture of a lot of people. And I know recently we haven't really been able to do that, but trust me, we will someday and you're going to want that option. Not to mention the iPhone 11 gets the 2x optical zoom, which the iPhone XR does not have. That's an optical zoom, not digital. So yeah, you can digitally zoom in on the XR, but you want to do it optically first, which is more lossless because you have those two different lenses, and then you can digitally zoom in. So in other words, you can take a picture of something, zoom in tighter, and keep a lot of the quality. And that alone might be worth the $100 to you. Having another lens in and of itself might be worth that extra $100, but there's some other reasons as well. 16 hours versus 17 hours of battery life. Now, this is of course the testing that Apple does, and they've been pretty accurate. It's an extra hour. Now, will you see an extra hour? Could be less, could be more. But it is a bigger number altogether, which means you will get better battery life on the iPhone 11. That's been bore out by some of the testing I did when I had the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 at the same time. Listen, an hour can mean a huge difference between you being on the road somewhere where you can't get to a charger for a while for whatever reason and running out of juice. Much smaller is IP67 versus IP68. That's 1 meter versus 2 meters underwater. It's a small thing. They're both basically water resistant. I don't think you're supposed to say waterproof. And that's 3 feet versus 6 feet. Is it really that big of a difference? I mean, maybe not, but quite frankly, the IP rating difference in and of itself I think is still part of worth that money that's a little bit extra cash. Now, here are two things that are really big: Deep Fusion and the nighttime photos. If you have had any of the iPhones that have nighttime photos, it's a game changer. And the fact that the XR does not have it, that definitely in and of itself, especially during this time of year where I live, where it gets dark at 4:30, it's an absolute must-have. And the differences are startling. I actually did a video about this when I reviewed the iPhone 11 and show a shot between the two. It is really night and day. I mean, pardon the pun. It's a huge difference. It's just that could be the thing that's worth the extra $100 to you. Again, each one of these things just lines up to make the iPhone 11 a much better choice. Deep Fusion, on the other hand, gives you a slightly better detail. It does some computational stuff, some of the AI learning that your phone does. By the way, your phone doing some AI stuff just always sounds creepy to me. It sounds like we're in the Matrix. If you're into portraits, you get 6 different effects on the iPhone 11 and only 3 on the XR. I don't know how important that is. But if you like to take selfies, that might be the game changer for you. It might be. Extended dynamic range at up to 60 frames a second for video. That's actually a pretty big deal. If you shoot anything in 60 frames per second, which you can of course slow down if you need to, it's really nice to be able to have a little bit of extra dynamic range. Your videos are just going to look better. The nice thing is if you do shoot in 60, you will have this option. If you do not shoot in 60, this is a moot point. But wouldn't you rather have the option? The front-facing camera is 7 megapixel versus 12. Now, just because a camera has more megapixels does not make it better. However, in this particular case, it's better. And of course, front-facing camera 1080p versus 4K. I mean, I think that kind of speaks for itself. If you really want to shoot 4K video with the front-facing camera, which helps you have the the actual screen so you can see what the heck you're taking video of. I mean, that's an iPhone 11 thing. With 4K, it's an iPhone 11. And the new Quick Take is only on the iPhone 11 and later. Again, another thing with photos, depends on how interesting that is to you, whether or not that's going to be a selling point. But really, there's just one thing that I think really makes this extra $100 absolutely worth it. Now, by the way, this ignores any sales that come up and potentially any kind of deals you can get, even if it's secondhand. So we're talking about $100 retail normal pricing. There probably are deals where you can get it for a lot less, or you can bridge that gap closer. But really, the number one thing is support. Your iPhone 11 is going to be supported longer. Now, of course, the iPhone XR has the A12 chip, which is an amazing processor, by the way. It's an absolutely fast processor, and of course, the A13 is better, but it's more about how long they'll be supported. Forget about which one is faster, it's like how much longer you're going to get updates. I suspect the A12 is going to get updates for the next couple of years, maybe 2, maybe 3, if you're lucky, more years, which is great. But the A13 is going to get no less than 1 more year, if not 2 or 3 beyond that, for $100. So look at it this way. Take that $100 and start dividing it by every year longer that you're going to get support above and beyond the XR. And it just doesn't make any sense to buy the XR. I just don't see any reason, unless of course you're getting it for a stupid good deal. But again, we're talking about at retail pricing. And by the way, if you already have a XR, I'm not suggesting that you need to upgrade to the iPhone 11. I mean, you can if you like. You might just want to skip and go right to the 12, look for some good trade-in deals for that. Now again, for $100, you can definitely break that down so that it's much more manageable over a monthly payment plan. Something that comes down to like $2 or $3 a month. It's absolutely worth it for the support alone. Forget about all the other features I told you, better battery life, better camera, all the cool things you can get, and of course, the better support over time. And for me, it's worth the $100. But what do you think? Tell me in the comments below. If you have a XR, do you feel like upgrading now? You don't need to do that again. I'm not saying if you have a XR, you need to go to the 11 or 12 or anything. You're fine. But if you're looking to buy a phone now, I would just straight up get the 11 if that's your budget range. Anyway, I have some videos here. You can find out how much Apple may have paid me for this video right here. And I'll talk to you next time. Peace and love.